And like, I love this stuff. Like, I really like tech and learning new technologies. So being paid to go and just learn for 2 months, it's like, okay, it's a pretty sweet deal, honestly.
So in this video, we're interviewing my friend Matt. He went from a police officer to a developer, and that is quite the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of career choice. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to do something similar. You're moving from the medical field or retail or some other job that you just don't like anymore, and you want to move into tech and programming. Basically, he was making $28,000 a year, and now he's making $85,000. If you're interested in supporting the channel, he actually tossed his resume up there on the store. So you get his portfolio, you get his resume, and you can see exactly how he did it in the interview and how he applied with such a radically different background. So subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and if you enjoy it, click thumbs up, leave a comment, and let me know if you want to see more of these interviews. This is a really long interview. I got a lot of value out of it personally, so I hope the same for you. Give us your background before you started to learn to code.
So yeah, I majored in criminal justice. I ended up actually going through a police academy while I was in college, and locked down, luckily, a police job when I was in college. Through my time at the police department, I kind of realized that it was, I don't know, it was something about like the police culture that I don't want to say I disliked it. I just think that it wasn't really the culture that I was aiming to be in for the next, foreseeable, like 20 years, 25 years. So that was at that point that I decided, okay, I'm going to see if this whole coding field is for me. I remember doing like some basic web stuff when I was younger, like in high school. So I started to tinker around with it. And then at that point, I made the decision to enroll with a boot camp.
So what boot camp did you go to? How long did that take? What did they teach you?
So I went to Flatiron School, and I did the online part-time program because it was basically the only thing that was going to fit in with my full-time work schedule, because I had to work, I had rent and bills and everything. And the curriculum there, they start you off teaching Ruby as an introductory language to get you familiar with object-oriented programming. Then they move you to Rails to teach you kind of that framework that is used professionally, pays really well if you can lock down Rails developer position. And then after that, they move a little bit into the front end, teach you JavaScript, React, Redux, and then a whole bunch of libraries and frameworks in between.
After you graduated there, you started applying for jobs, I assume. How long did it take you to get responses? What was your strategy like?
Basically, after you get all the curriculum done, because they had a job guarantee, within 6 months you get a job or you get your full money back. And so they had this whole career program. But I knew that at the rate in which I wanted to get a job, I should probably be doing it independently. So once I was done with the camp, I quit my job and I moved back to my parents' house in Massachusetts. I built up my resume first. I built up my LinkedIn. I built a portfolio, made sure all of my projects, presentable projects, were deployed so potential employers could check it out and see what I've actually built. And then I started applying, and I essentially spent a couple days a week just sending out applications. And this was like 8 to 9 hours a day. Like I went to a coffee shop and I like packed lunch and everything, and I just applied all day long. And then the rest of the time, I would spend maybe a day or two working just purely on algorithms, because I figured that those would probably come up in the interviews. And then I also scheduled some of my time to go to meetups. And I wasn't close to where a lot of these meetups were, so I had to consider that. I would commute to Boston, which was about 2 hours from the town where my parents live. Basically just overexposing myself to the potential opportunities that were out there and tiring myself out in the process, but it was necessary to get the job.
Can we see the projects that you showed off?
So this is my first project. This was built in Sinatra, and it's kind of a tier down from Rails. The whole point of this application was just to show off like API usage and design and everything, even though I just used Bootstrap. The whole point of it was to be able to search for restaurants in a locale that are high rated. So let's just do Boston. Breaks it down into type of food. So let's go say you would select this. And it would just return some of the basic information about the restaurant. And then I have profiles. Second project is called websites. So you can log in with Facebook. We can create a new wedding website, and then you could activate it. So this is your website dashboard. So you can activate it on the dashboard, and you would have these different tools that come up, and you can upload images, and then you would launch the website. And I made only one template for each website, but once you launch the website, this is the public website that everybody would be able to see. this admin dashboard because I'm the owner of this website. The main part of it was so guests for the wedding could accept their invitations. All the general information about the website, where it's going to be, what the contact is, if there are any events, bachelor party or rehearsal dinner, stuff like that. So the last project is called National Disaster Hub, a centralized place where victims of national disasters could go and check in so their loved ones could also check to make sure that they're okay. So the whole concept was like, say a third-party organization like FEMA. FEMA could have these relief tents where they could connect to this API using their own secure servers and send the data to this application. So once again, it would be a centralized place where victims could go and check in. So let's say Matt, and then add family member, because there could be obviously multiple Matt last names in Austin. These are for an identifier. So the family member that's going to check, it would provide an IP tracked location. I have a VPN right now, which is why it's showing I'm in New York, which I'm not. So you go back, so you could find a person, Matt, last name, Boston, find person. And it would show that they checked in with a green check mark, and it would show where their check-in location was. Then I had like a little disaster status, really just a weather application. But I had these like custom cards that I made with different backgrounds. So if it was going to be rainy, it would have a rainy background and just show general information about it. A lot of employers were interested in this one because it's not something they had seen before. It was conceptually different than just like a to-do list. That was the big thing. And then they were interested in the design aspect. So this is a React Redux front end with a Rails backend, custom CSS. Try to make a project that's going to stand out and make that the top one that they're going to see.
What were your code tests that you got? What was the hardest? What was the easiest? What did that look like?
The code tests varied. A lot of the code tests started with a phone technical interview. And so what they would generally do is have me go to like a shared code editor or go to even Google Docs and have me write out pieces of code, maybe ask me to like write a class with certain functionality, attributes, constructor, basic stuff like that, just so I understood object-oriented programming. I got past that. There were a couple interviews that I went to where they had me actually code on a whiteboard in person.
What was your response to application ratio?
I sent out 300 plus and maybe got 30 responses out of that.
And then out of those 30 responses, how many job offers?
2.
What were those like?
One of them was a relatively, it wasn't too hard of an interview process. They were really ready to cater for junior engineers, and they were looking to bring on a lot of junior engineers that they could train. And they had all these different locations that I could choose from, like all around the country. So I had a lot of choice in that capacity. The other one was also a really great company. They flew me out for that last interview. I would say they were both really positive interview processes.
What was the final interview like for those two?
The one that I got flown out, it was a lengthy interview process. It took about 3 hours.
What was the job offer that you got? What was the total compensation package, if you don't mind?
Base, bonus, and relocation came out to about 82, 83. The benefits of the one that I didn't take, I would say, were better than the one I did take, but there were different reasons for the one I did take.
You're in a hotel room because you're being trained at the job that you accepted. How long have you been in that hotel room, and how much longer do you got to be in that hotel room, and then what's the plan?
One of the reasons I took this job is they put me through a 2-month training. They teach some relevant technologies that they generally use. Once again, they cater to junior developers. They fly you out and they have a training location, then they have your work location. I'm in training right now, and I've been here for about a month or a little bit over. I got under a month left. It's flying by. But they put you in a hotel room. Their work location's nearby. They send Ubers every day to pick you up and bring you to the work location. They hire batches of like somewhere between 20 and 30 junior engineers. It's a really large company. I have all these classmates that I'm doing my projects with, and they're all around the same age. Other than that, am I missing something? I think that's it. The hotel, the food, and the salary.
What time you get up, what time you get home, ins and outs, how much lunch you get?
I get up about 6:45 every day. I throw on my slippers, I walk down the hall, and I get a breakfast sandwich, some fruit, and I bring it back here. And I throw my TV on, and I eat breakfast. And that's and I have a cold brew. They serve Starbucks coffee, so I get a nitro brew every day. Yeah, I wake up, we hit the Ubers, go to work for 9. And we start up, around 9 to 9:30. Everyone's there. We're kind of just like talking and whatnot. We start up class and we hit these new concepts, and we'll talk about stuff from the day before, practice up on that, make sure everybody understands those concepts. And then we'll move on to the next subject. We have been rotating instructors because different technologies, you have different experts that are coming in and teaching you. Depends on the instructor, but sometimes we'll have half an hour for lunch. Sometimes we'll have an hour and a half for lunch. Like, it really depends. Obviously, we're only eating for part of that. So the rest of the time, we're kind of just like practicing code on our own time. And then we leave anywhere from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And it really varies every day. And then we come back here, and you generally are putting in some work in that night for that curriculum. But other than that, your time is yours, and just do what you want. And we're all in the same hotel, and we all have our own rooms. So it's kind of a cool, like, little community we have going on right now.
Do you have to do like any tests or anything like that? Like give a presentation?
We do have tests. After every like major section, we have a test. We have 2 more, and then we have a final project where we're working on like a project with 4 or 5 other people, and then we're presenting that project.
Because it's like a consulting based business, so they send you out to different projects. Are some of them remote? Do you get to pick where you go or have any influence there? Because they could send you to like California, right? Or do you have like a home base?
So you choose your location, and they're super lenient about which location you choose. And so I actually switched. So before I actually got shipped out to training, I chose Seattle, and then I was like, I don't actually want Seattle. I have something that's drawing me somewhere else. So then I switched to a new location, and that is my location that I'm going to be going to after I'm done with training. As far as work from home, I think it depends on the project, but I've been talking to some people at this office who are in my position, and it's just like their work location. They've already graduated from training, and it's like pretty lenient remote policy.
I think your training that you're doing is like super unique. That sounds way more fun than like being an intern or something at Google. Like what you're doing, all these different tech stacks, different experts, different places. That sounds way more fun than like one of the big FANG companies.
Dude, it's actually not bad. Like I've been enjoying it, and living in the hotel room I thought was going to get old, and it does to an extent, but still, once again, being able to roll out of bed and just walk down and get like my breakfast made for me and bring it back to my room and just watch TV for an hour in the morning and then go and learn. And like, I love this stuff. Like, I really like tech and learning new technologies. So being paid to go and just learn for 2 months, it's like, okay, it's a pretty sweet deal, honestly.
What were the questions like about your background? Like you don't have a degree in this. You didn't come from this. Were they like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So if they said why the switch, I would tell them, I would explain my background, and then I would say, well, it was a lot of the culture in that industry wasn't necessarily something that I was looking for in the long term. That's definitely like a solidified answer, saying I liked this because I did. I liked the criminal justice industry, but flipping it and saying, but it's not necessarily something I would have seen myself doing for the next 20 years. And kind of making that relatable, being like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to do that for my whole life, but I'm really grateful to have found a subject that I can relate to enough and like enough where I can easily see myself spending the foreseeable future in this industry and getting better and better and more experienced and, contributing.